In a world where everyone is shouting, where every moment is posted, where every thought becomes a public announcement, there is one truth people forget. Your peace is born the moment your life becomes private. The more you share, the more you invite noise, the more you expose, the more you attract opinions. And the more you open your doors to the world, the more you let their energy shape yours. Buddhism teaches a simple principle: what is sacred must be protected. When your inner world becomes public territory, you lose control of your mind. Today, you will learn why keeping your life private is not selfish. It is wise, powerful, and necessary for inner peace. 1. The more you share, the more you invite chaos into your mind. People often believe that sharing their life openly will make connections deeper and relationships stronger. But Buddhism teaches a quieter truth. The more exposed your life becomes, the more noise you invite into your mind. Every person who knows your dreams, your fears, your struggles, or your private plans places an invisible weight on your shoulders. Their opinions, expectations, doubts, and judgments, spoken or unspoken, begin to influence you more than you even realize. Even the ones who never say a word still affect you, because their presence creates pressure and their awareness of your life becomes a silent force that shapes your emotional world. When your life becomes too public, you begin to live as if you are standing on a stage. You think, what will they say if I fail? How will they react if I change direction? Will they approve of my choices? This internal questioning slowly steals your peace. You stop living freely and you start acting for an imaginary audience you created yourself by oversharing. Instead of following your heart, you follow the fear of being judged. Instead of moving with confidence, you move with hesitation because you are thinking about how others might react. This is the moment your peace begins to die. A peaceful mind is naturally quiet and inward-focused, but when you share too much, you hand over pieces of your peace to other people. Their reactions start to control your emotions. Their approval becomes a source of comfort, and their criticism becomes a source of pain. In Buddhism, one of the main causes of suffering is attachment, especially attachment to others' opinions. When your happiness depends on how others see your life, you lose control over your internal world. You begin to feel unstable, disconnected, and overwhelmed, not because life is hard, but because too many people are inside your mind. Oversharing turns your inner sanctuary into a crowded room. What should be a calm space becomes filled with noise, comparison, insecurity, and unnecessary pressure. You lose the freedom to grow quietly, to fail privately, and to rebuild yourself without spectators. This is why guarding your life is an act of wisdom, not secrecy. It is a form of self-respect. When you keep your struggles quiet, you give yourself the space to think clearly. When you move silently, you remove the noise that comes from others' expectations. When you protect your dreams, you allow them to grow without being crushed by doubt from people who do not understand your path. Not everyone deserves access to your soul. Not everyone deserves to know your plans or witness your pain. The fewer people who know your life, the lighter your mind becomes and the more peaceful your heart feels. 2. Privacy creates strength. Exposure creates weakness. People underestimate how much power they give away when they allow everyone to know the details of their life. In Buddhism, strength is not measured by how loudly you speak or how visibly you live. Strength comes from the steadiness of your inner world, from the parts of your life that remain undisturbed, untouched, and unexposed. When your life becomes too public, you gradually weaken yourself because every piece you reveal becomes something others can comment on, compare themselves to, manipulate, misunderstand, or envy. Even the smallest detail of your life can be turned into unnecessary noise in the minds of people who do not truly know you or care about your well-being. You may not feel it immediately, but exposure slowly drains your energy and shifts your focus in ways you do not notice until your peace is already damaged. When you keep your goals, dreams, relationships, wounds, blessings, and personal growth private, you create a powerful shield around your life. Privacy gives you room to grow without interference. It allows you to evolve naturally instead of bending yourself to meet the expectations of others. The Buddha taught that wisdom develops in silence, not in crowds. When no one knows your next step, no one can block it. When no one knows what you are healing from, no one can reopen that wound. When no one knows what you are working toward, no one can plant seeds of doubt in your mind. Privacy protects your progress from being shaken by external energy. Exposure, on the other hand, creates cracks in your inner foundation. When too many eyes are watching, you start feeling pressure to perform, pressure to impress, pressure to prove yourself, and pressure to justify your decisions. Instead of moving freely, you move while carrying the heavy weight of other people's expectations on your back. You may begin to change your behavior, your authenticity, or your pace just to avoid criticism or to gain approval. This is not strength. It is quiet suffering. It is the loss of your spiritual independence. A private life is powerful because it keeps your energy centered. You are no longer distracted by what others think, no longer controlled by their doubts, and no longer drained by their opinions. You can build quietly, heal quietly, and succeed quietly. Your blessings become safer because fewer people know about them. Your mind becomes clearer because fewer voices influence it. Your heart becomes stronger because you no longer seek validation outside yourself. In Buddhism, inner power grows in solitude, just like a tree that grows stronger when its roots are protected deep beneath the soil. No one sees the roots, yet they carry all the strength. In the same way, the parts of your life that remain hidden are the ones that give you the most stability. The less people know, the more control you have. The more you protect your inner world, the more unshakable you become. People cannot attack what they cannot see. They cannot sabotage what they do not know. They cannot envy what remains concealed. Your peace returns the moment you stop trying to be visible and start valuing the quiet strength of being private. Protect your life, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. A private life is not a lonely life, it is a powerful life, because it belongs entirely to you. San. Not every soul is pure enough to hear your truth. One of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that everyone who listens has a pure heart. But Buddhism teaches that every person sees the world through the lens of their own mind, through their wounds, their jealousy, their insecurities, their fears, and their unresolved pain. This means that not everyone is capable of receiving your truth with kindness. Some will misunderstand you. Some will twist your words. Some will pretend to support you while secretly wishing you fall behind them. And some simply do not have the emotional maturity to handle what you share. When you speak openly to the wrong hearts, you unintentionally hand them the power to hurt you, judge you, or use your vulnerability in ways that disturb your peace. People hear you through the filter of their intentions. A pure heart will understand you, support you, and hold your words with compassion. But a toxic heart will interpret your truth as competition, weakness, or an opportunity to gossip. A jealous person will hear your accomplishments as arrogance. A bitter person will hear your healing as betrayal. A small-minded person will hear your dreams as unrealistic. And someone who has not worked on themselves will project their fear onto your courage. Your truth can be a source of light, but in the wrong hands, that same truth can become fuel for negativity. In Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha were not given to everyone. He shared wisdom with those who were ready, those with clear minds and sincere intentions. This was not done out of arrogance, but out of understanding. When you speak to someone who cannot comprehend your inner world, you create unnecessary suffering for both of you. They walk away confused or judgmental, and you walk away drained, misunderstood, or disappointed. This is why it is wise to be selective with who gets to hear your inner thoughts, your struggles, and your dreams. Your soul is not meant for everyone to access. Your personal journey is sacred. The emotions you have carried, the battles you have fought, the lessons you have learned, these are not small things, they are pieces of your spiritual identity. When you share them with someone whose heart is not clean or whose intentions are unclear, you invite negative energy into your life. You allow someone who is unprepared to enter the most vulnerable parts of you. This is why oversharing leads to pain. You give pieces of your spirit to people who have not earned that trust. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. Not everyone who listens is loyal. Some people ask about your life not because they care, but because they are curious, bored, insecure, or eager to compare. Some want to know your struggles so they can feel superior. Some want to know your blessings so they can feel bitter. And some simply enjoy watching how your story unfolds, like spectators at a show, without any real concern for your well-being. When you expose your inner world to these kinds of people, you give them more access to influence your emotions than they deserve. A peaceful life requires boundaries, not walls, but wisdom. You must learn to recognize who can hold your truth with respect and who cannot. You must learn that silence is not weakness, it is protection. Keeping your heart private is not being closed off, it is being spiritually intelligent. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this person capable of respecting what I am about to share? If the answer is no, your silence will protect you far more than your words ever could. Your story is sacred, your truth is sacred, and your peace is sacred. Protect them by offering them only to those who have the purity and depth to understand. The fewer people who hold pieces of your soul, the lighter, calmer, and stronger your life becomes. 4. Your energy weakens every time you over-explain your life. One of the quietest ways people lose their peace is through the constant urge to explain themselves. You may not notice it at first, but every time you justify your choices, defend your decisions, or try to make someone understand why you are doing what you are doing, a small piece of your inner strength slips away. Buddhism teaches that true peace comes from inner alignment, not from outward approval. When you start explaining yourself too often, it means your inner world has become tangled with the expectations of others. You are no longer living purely for yourself. You are living in response to how others might judge you. Over-explaining is a sign that your boundaries have been crossed, not by others, but by yourself. You opened the door too wide. You allowed too many voices in. You gave people access to parts of your life that they never needed to understand or comment on. When people know too much, they expect you to justify every step, every change, every emotion, and every choice. And when you fall into the trap of over-explaining, you unconsciously hand them authority over your peace. You place your emotional stability in their hands, hoping they will approve, hoping they will validate you, hoping they will see you clearly and not misunderstand you. But the truth is, most people are not trying to understand you, they are trying to fit your story into their worldview. They are seeing your life not through your eyes, but through the limitations of their own experience, their fears, their ego, their insecurities, and their personal beliefs. This is why the Buddha taught that the path is individual. No one else has walked your journey, so no one else can fully understand your decisions. When you over-explain, you are trying to translate your soul into a language they cannot speak. Every explanation drains your energy because you are giving emotional effort to something that will never give you peace. The more you talk, the more misunderstood you feel. The more you justify yourself, the more judged you feel. The more you defend your choices, the more doubt you create within yourself. Instead of strengthening your confidence, over-explaining slowly destroys it. You begin questioning your own decisions because others questioned them first. You begin doubting your path because others didn't understand it. You begin feeling insecure not because you are wrong, but because you shared your life with people who were not meant to interpret it. A peaceful life requires selective silence. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your healing, your growth, your boundaries, your dreams, your pace, or your choices. You do not need to convince anyone of your worth. You do not need to defend your past or justify your future. People who truly care do not demand explanations. They trust your heart. They respect your journey. They honor your silence. Those who constantly question you are revealing their own internal chaos, not yours. When you stop over-explaining, you reclaim your energy. You reclaim your mental space. You reclaim the right to make decisions without fear. You stop searching for permission and begin trusting your inner wisdom. This is a powerful turning point when you understand that your peace is more important than being understood by everyone. Not everyone deserves to know why you choose silence. Not everyone deserves to know why you walk away. Not everyone deserves to know why you change direction. These things belong to you, and they lose meaning when exposed to the wrong minds. In Buddhism, clarity grows in quietness. When you stop speaking unnecessarily, you hear yourself more clearly. You feel your emotions more honestly. You connect with your intentions more deeply. The world becomes quieter, and your mind becomes calmer. This is the strength of silence. It gives you back all the energy you once wasted on explanations. You do not need to prove your goodness. You do not need to prove your sincerity. You do not need to prove your path. The right people will feel your heart without you saying a word, and the wrong people will misunderstand you, even if you write them a book. Protect your peace by protecting your explanations. Your life does not need to be justified. It needs to be lived. 5. Protecting your blessings protects your peace. There is a silent spiritual rule found in Buddhism and echoed across countless wisdom traditions. What you reveal too early can be weakened too easily. Your blessings, whether they are new opportunities, fresh beginnings, emotional healing, hidden talents, growing relationships, or personal accomplishments, are like delicate seeds planted in the soil of your life. When a seed is newly planted, it needs darkness, protection, stillness, and time to grow roots. If you expose it too soon before it develops strength, it can be stepped on, damaged, or destroyed by forces that do not understand or appreciate its potential. Many people fail to understand this. They share their plans as soon as they appear, their dreams as soon as they form, and their progress as soon as it begins. They assume that expressing joy will multiply it. They believe that talking about their success will attract more of it. But in reality, when your blessings are still fragile and new, they become vulnerable to the energy of others, especially those who do not genuinely wish you well. Some people smile at your blessings, but their hearts carry hidden envy. Some seem supportive, but inside they compare their life to yours. Some congratulate you with their mouth, but resent you with their mind. And some simply do not want to see you evolve beyond who you used to be. Their negative energy does not need to be spoken aloud. Even silent jealousy can affect your spiritual environment. Buddhism teaches that energy is subtle but powerful. When people know too much about your life, they unintentionally project their insecurities, fears, or doubts onto your path. This is why a private blessing grows stronger, while a public blessing grows weaker. Your peace begins to crumble when your life becomes a stage and your blessings become announcements. When too many people know your next steps, their opinions start pulling you in different directions. Some will question you. Some will doubt you. Some will challenge your decisions. Others will tell you what you should or should not do based on their own limitations. Without realizing it, their noise enters your mind and influences your confidence. You begin feeling pressured to succeed not for yourself, but to avoid their criticism or satisfy their expectations. This pressure destroys the purity of your blessing and replaces gratitude with fear. Protecting your blessings is a way of protecting your inner peace. When no one knows what you are building, no one can interfere with it. When no one knows what you are healing from, no one can reopen the wound. When no one knows who you are dating, loving, or growing with, no one can inject unhealthy energy into your relationship. When no one knows what opportunities have been given to you by God, no one can direct jealousy or doubt toward them. Silence becomes your shield, keeping your blessings safe until they are strong enough to exist without vulnerability. A quiet blessing allows you to enjoy your life without performance. It allows you to grow without pressure. It allows you to change without explanation. When you do things silently, your motivation stays pure because you are not performing for anyone. You are doing things for yourself, from your heart, aligned with your inner wisdom. The Buddha taught that inner peace comes from detachment, especially detachment from the opinions and reactions of others. When you keep your blessings private, you detach from the need for external applause and focus solely on your own growth. There is also a deeper spiritual dimension. When you speak too soon, you interrupt the natural flow of the blessing. You take something sacred and hand it to the world before it is ready. You expose something divine to a world that does not always understand or appreciate what God is shaping within you. And sometimes, by talking too much, you lose the magic of what is unfolding. Silence allows the blessing to ripen naturally. Silence keeps the spiritual energy clean. Silence keeps your mind focused and your heart grounded. A private blessing becomes a powerful blessing. It grows roots, it grows strength, it grows authenticity. And when it finally becomes visible to the world, it is already too strong to be shaken by the opinions or energy of others. So protect what is blooming in your life. Protect your new habits, your peace, your discipline, your progress, your healing, your love, your money, your visions, your opportunities. Protect them like sacred treasures, not out of fear but out of wisdom, because what grows in silence often becomes the strongest part of your life. 6. Silence helps you hear your own life. Clearly, your mind is constantly speaking to you, but most people never hear it because their life is too loud. The world today is full of noise, opinions, expectations, judgments, conversations, comparisons, and endless distractions. Every time you share a piece of your life with others, more noise enters your space. More opinions, more advice, more reactions, more emotional weight. Slowly, without realizing it, the volume of the outside world becomes louder than the voice of your own inner wisdom. Buddhism teaches that clarity only emerges when the mind becomes quiet, and quietness becomes impossible when your life is lived too publicly. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the presence of awareness. It is the mental state where your intuition finally becomes audible because the world has stopped speaking over it. When you stop sharing every detail of your life, you create a sacred distance between your inner world and the outer world. That distance becomes a protected space where your thoughts can breathe, where your emotions can settle, and where your real desires can rise to the surface without being influenced by anyone else. Noise confuses you. Silence reveals you. When people know too much about your life, their reactions start guiding your decisions. You begin to wonder if you should pursue something based on how others might respond. You hesitate not because your heart doubts your path, but because someone else's opinion has planted seeds of hesitation. Their words echo in your mind, drowning out your own intuition. This is how people lose themselves, not through big moments, but through small pieces of themselves, handed away in conversation after conversation. Silence gives you back what you lost. In Buddhist teachings, monks spend long periods in silence, not because they dislike people, but because they understand that the mind has its own language, one that can only be heard when the world becomes quiet. Silence helps you understand your emotions clearly. Silence helps you feel your inner truth without distortion. Silence helps you recognize what truly belongs to you and what was forced onto you by the expectations of others. When you are constantly speaking, constantly sharing, constantly explaining, your mind becomes cloudy. But when you begin to protect your silence, a natural clarity arises from within you. Silence also exposes the illusions you have carried for years. When you stop seeking validation, you realize whose approval never mattered. When you stop explaining your plans, you see which people valued you only for the information you provided. When you stop speaking unnecessarily, you begin to observe the world without being entangled in it. Silence gives you the spiritual distance needed to understand what drains you, what nourishes you, what aligns with your heart, and what does not. Most people fear silence because they fear meeting themselves. They fear hearing their true thoughts. They fear confronting the pain they have ignored. They fear facing the truth of their life without distractions. But what they do not realize is that silence is the very place where healing begins. In the quiet space of your own mind, you can finally acknowledge what hurts, what feels heavy, what needs to change, and what your soul has been begging for. Silence also strengthens your connection to intuition. Your intuition is like a soft whisper inside you. It never yells, it never forces. It simply guides you in the gentlest way possible, but you cannot hear it if your life is filled with noise from others. When you keep your life private, your intuition becomes louder. It feels like a peaceful inner compass that tells you what to pursue, what to avoid, who to trust, and when to walk away. Noise makes you question yourself. Silence helps you trust yourself. Another powerful benefit of silence is emotional detachment. When you stop sharing everything, you stop absorbing unnecessary emotional energy. You no longer carry the weight of other people's insecurity, judgment, or fear. Your mind becomes lighter because it is no longer crowded with external voices. Your heart becomes calmer because it is no longer burdened with emotional pressure from others. Silence is not emptiness, it is freedom from unnecessary influence. A private life teaches you to rely on your own understanding, instead of the opinions of others. It teaches you to value your own insight. It teaches you to move from your inner truth rather than external noise. And as your silence deepens, your peace grows naturally. You no longer need to ask for approval because you already know what is right for you. You no longer seek validation because you have validated yourself. You no longer fear judgment because you are no longer performing for the world. When your life becomes quiet, your mind becomes clear. And when your mind becomes clear, your path becomes visible. Silence is not a punishment. It is a return to yourself, to your wisdom, to your center, and to the peaceful reality that has always been waiting beneath the noise. 7. Your life becomes lighter when you live it quietly. One of the greatest spiritual transformations happens not when you add more to your life, but when you remove the unnecessary noise that has been weighing you down. A life lived quietly is not a lonely life, it is a liberated life. It frees you from the constant burden of proving yourself, explaining yourself, showing yourself, and keeping up with the expectations of others. Most people are exhausted, not because life is hard, but because they have made their inner world too public. They are carrying the weight of people's eyes, people's judgments, people's comparisons, and people's unspoken expectations. When you choose a quiet, private life, all of this weight falls away, and your spirit begins to breathe again. The human mind was not designed to live under constant scrutiny. It was meant to grow in peaceful moments, to think in solitude, to feel deeply without being watched. But when your life becomes a performance, you lose touch with your inner self. You start asking, what do they think? More than, what do I feel? You start looking outward for guidance rather than inward for truth. When you live publicly, your identity becomes shaped by reactions instead of reflection. You slowly drift away from who you are meant to be, because you are trying to meet the expectations of people who have no understanding of your soul. A quiet life restores you to yourself. In Buddhism, there is a teaching that says enlightenment is found not through adding more, but through removing what does not serve your inner peace. Silence, privacy, and reduced attachment to the world are not restrictions, they are tools for liberation. When you stop sharing every detail of your journey, you free yourself from the energy that others unconsciously attach to your life. You stop carrying silent jealousy. You stop absorbing unnecessary criticism. You stop being influenced by someone else's limited perspective. A quiet life allows you to move at your own pace, to follow your intuition, and to exist without the noise of external opinions constantly pulling you off your path. When you stop giving people access to your private world, you stop carrying the emotional burden of being watched. You wake up in the morning and live for yourself, instead of living for an imaginary audience. You make decisions based solely on what feels aligned with your inner truth, not what looks acceptable to others. You experience a different kind of peace, the peace that comes from living without pressure. Suddenly, life becomes lighter because you have removed the invisible weight you didn't even know was crushing you. A quiet life also helps you heal more quickly. Healing happens internally, not externally. When you keep your struggles private, you allow your heart to process pain without being interrupted, judged, or misunderstood. When you expose your wounds too soon, people unintentionally poke at them with their opinions, their judgments, or their curiosity. But when you heal quietly, the wound closes on its own, without interference. A private healing is often a deeper healing because it is protected from external energy that might disturb the process. Growth also becomes more authentic in a quiet life. When you grow publicly, you feel pressure to maintain an image of improvement, even when you are struggling on the inside. You may pretend to be strong when you feel weak. You may hide your setbacks because you fear judgment. But when your growth is private, you allow yourself to be fully honest. You can fail without shame, restart without fear, and adjust your path without needing to explain why. Private growth is real growth because it comes from your heart, not from the desire to impress. A quiet life also deepens your relationships. When you stop sharing your life with everyone, you begin to understand who truly deserves a place near your soul. Privacy reveals authenticity. The people who remain close to you are the ones who value you for who you are, not for the details you provide. They respect your boundaries, they honor your silence, they nurture your peace instead of disturbing it. You begin to surround yourself with people whose presence feels calm, not chaotic, because your quiet life naturally filters out those who feed on drama, gossip, competition, or negativity. But perhaps the most powerful change is the one that happens inside your mind. When your life becomes quiet, you finally hear yourself. You hear your own intuition guiding you. You hear your own emotions speaking to you. You hear your own truth rising within you. You no longer feel the need to be understood by everyone because you now deeply understand yourself. This inner clarity becomes the foundation of your peace. You realize that you never needed the world to see you. You only needed to see yourself without the distortion of external voices. A quiet life is not a small life. It is a focused, grounded, meaningful life. It is a life where your energy is preserved, your mind is peaceful, your emotions are steady, and your path is guided by inner wisdom rather than outer noise. People may not see your progress, but you will feel your transformation. People may not understand your silence, but you will understand your peace. When you stop sharing your life with everyone, you reclaim your power, you reclaim your privacy, you reclaim your emotional freedom, you reclaim your authenticity, and, slowly, your entire life becomes lighter, not because everything is perfect, but because your spirit is no longer carrying the weight of the world. A quiet life is a peaceful life. A peaceful life is a powerful life, and a powerful life is one that belongs entirely to you. 8. Peace begins the moment you stop letting the world touch your inner world. There is a moment in life when you finally realize that your suffering did not come from the world itself. It came from how much access you gave the world to your inner world. You allowed people to step into your emotions. You allowed them to influence your mind. You allowed them to shape your decisions. You allowed them to affect your mood. And slowly, day by day, you began losing the spiritual boundaries that once protected your peace. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a clear pond. When too many hands reach into it, the water becomes cloudy. It takes time, stillness, and distance for that water to settle again, and the same is true for your heart. When you share your inner world with too many people, their energies begin to mix with yours. Their negativity becomes your burden. Their doubts leak into your dreams. Their fears replace your confidence. Their insecurities make you question your direction. Their judgments make you shrink yourself. And their expectations make you feel like you are never doing enough. Even when people don't speak, their energy speaks. Their silence speaks. Their glances speak. Their reactions speak. And without realizing it, you begin shaping your life around these unspoken energies instead of your own truth. Peace begins the moment you decide that your inner world is sacred. You don't have to let everyone know what you feel. You don't have to let everyone influence your decisions. You don't have to let the world dictate your mood. You don't have to allow every emotion, every disappointment, every dream, or every struggle to become a public discussion. When you close the door to unnecessary opinions, your inner world stops shaking. When fewer people know your business, fewer people can disturb your balance. When you stop giving the world access to your heart, you stop absorbing the world's chaos. Your inner world is your true home, and most people have let too many strangers walk through it. Every time someone comments on your choices, a piece of your peace gets disturbed. Every time you let someone's reaction change your direction, your center shifts. Every time you allow the wrong person into your emotional space, your heart becomes heavier. This is why your life feels chaotic. Your mind is crowded with voices that don't belong to you. You are carrying energy that is not yours to carry. You are trying to satisfy people who were never meant to guide you. You are fighting emotional battles that were never part of your spiritual path. When you close your emotional doors and become selective about who enters your inner space, your peace returns naturally. You begin hearing your own thoughts again, instead of the echo of others' opinions. You begin feeling your own desires again, instead of the pressure to meet expectations. You begin trusting your own decisions again, instead of doubting yourself through the lens of outside voices. You begin living for yourself, not for approval. And slowly, your life begins to lighten because you are no longer carrying the weight of the world inside your heart. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises from attachment not just to people, but to people's thoughts, people's reactions, and people's validation. When you detach from this, your life feels lighter. When you stop letting the world enter your mind without permission, your emotions become calmer. When you protect your inner world like a sacred temple, the world outside cannot harm you. Your peace does not depend on silence from the world. It depends on silence within you. Your peace does not come from controlling others. It comes from controlling access to your heart. When you stop letting everyone touch your emotions, you become stronger. When you stop letting everyone's energy affect your own, you become wiser. When you stop giving the world the key to your inner world, you become untouchable in the most spiritual, beautiful way. And this is the truth most people never learn. Your peace is not something you find, it is something you protect. The moment you realize this, your entire life transforms. You begin to move differently. You begin to speak differently. You begin to feel differently. You no longer chase peace, you become peace. And the world cannot shake what it can no longer reach. 9. You heal faster when your battles are fought in silence. One of the greatest truths people learn too late in life is that healing requires privacy. The deepest wounds, the heaviest burdens, and the most painful emotional transitions are not meant to be handled under the eyes of others. They are meant to be faced in silence, processed in solitude, and understood in the quiet space where your soul finally has room to speak. Buddhism teaches that pain becomes heavier when exposed to the world, because the world does not know how to hold your pain. They only know how to observe it, question it, or judge it. When you keep your healing private, you protect your heart from being mishandled during its most vulnerable stage. When you share your struggles with too many people, you invite interpretations, projections, assumptions, and opinions that often make your pain worse. Someone will tell you how you should feel. Another will tell you what you should do. Someone else will misinterpret your emotions and make you feel misunderstood, and some will pretend to care while secretly feeding off your vulnerability. This noise does not help you heal. It delays your healing. It pulls you away from your own truth. It replaces clarity with confusion, and it fills your heart with emotional weight that was never meant for you to carry. Healing is not a performance. It is a private agreement between you and your soul. Your battles, your heartbreaks, your fear, your disappointment, your regrets, your transformation, these are not things for the world to watch. These are sacred experiences that shape your spirit. When you talk too early, the wound opens wider. When you reveal too much, you allow others to poke at wounds they can never understand. Some will diminish your pain because they have never felt it. Some will judge it because they fear their own pain. Some will invalidate it simply because they lack emotional depth. And some will use your vulnerability to feel better about themselves. Privacy is a shield that guards your heart while it rebuilds itself. When you fight your battles in silence, your energy stays inside you instead of being scattered across the reactions of others. You are not trying to explain your emotions, justify your choices, or defend your process. You are simply feeling, understanding, and transforming. There is no pressure to heal quickly, no pressure to look strong, no pressure to pretend. You can cry without guilt, rest without judgment, and take as long as you need without anyone questioning your pace. A private healing also protects you from comparison. When you share your struggles openly, people tend to compare your pain to theirs. They minimize your emotions by saying, "It could be worse." They unconsciously compete by saying, "I struggled more." But pain cannot be compared. Pain is personal. Pain is a mirror, reflecting your own inner world. What breaks you may not break someone else, and what breaks them may be light to you. Healing becomes confusing when you surround yourself with voices that cannot understand the shape of your pain. Silence gives your emotions the space they need to soften and settle. Buddhism often teaches that suffering becomes heavier when clung to and lighter when observed quietly. Silence allows you to sit with your emotions without labeling them as good or bad. It allows your mind to witness your pain without drowning in commentary. In silence, the sharp edges of your suffering begin to smooth out. Your heart begins to understand the deeper meaning behind your wounds. You begin to see that your pain was not punishment, it was transformation. But you can only understand this when the world around you becomes quiet enough for you to hear your own soul. When you heal privately, you create a sacred cocoon around yourself. Inside that cocoon, your pain slowly turns into wisdom. Your confusion turns into clarity. Your weakness turns into strength. Your wounds turn into spiritual armor. And your heartbreak turns into a deeper understanding of life. People may not see the process, but they will see the transformation. They will wonder how you became so calm, so wise, so strong, so centered, and you will know it was because you chose a silent path to healing. The most powerful transformations happen when no one is watching. A private battle gives birth to a stronger version of you, someone who does not need validation, does not fear judgment, and does not bend under pressure. someone who trusts themselves more deeply, someone who respects their own emotions, someone whose peace cannot be shaken because it was rebuilt entirely from within. Your healing does not need an audience. It needs privacy. It needs silence. It needs time. It needs space. And it needs the gentle self-compassion that can only exist when you are alone with your soul. When you choose to heal quietly, you discover a truth that changes your entire life. The less the world knows about your pain, the more freedom you have to rise without interruption. And in that rising, you reclaim your peace, your power, and your purpose. 10. When you stop sharing everything, you finally take your power back. There comes a point in your life when you realize that every time you shared too much, you gave away a small piece of your power. You handed strangers a key to your emotions. You allowed acquaintances to influence your decisions. You let the world enter parts of your mind that were never meant to be touched. And slowly, without noticing, you became weaker, not because life was difficult, but because your energy was scattered in too many directions, carried by too many people. Every opinion took a piece of you. Every reaction took a piece of you. Every misunderstanding took a piece of you. Buddhism teaches that the mind loses its strength when it leaks energy into places it does not belong. Silence is the container that holds your power in one place. When you stop sharing everything, you stop leaking energy. You stop scattering your strength. You stop living like an open book that anyone can read, interpret, or criticize. You become centered. You become solid. You become grounded. You begin to feel your emotions more clearly because you are no longer influenced by the emotional noise of others. You begin to trust your decisions more confidently because you are no longer waiting for someone else to approve or validate them. You begin to feel stronger inside yourself because your energy is finally contained within you rather than being spread across countless ears and eyes. Oversharing weakens you in ways you don't see. When you talk about your dreams too early, you allow others to plant seeds of doubt in your mind. When you talk about your struggles too freely, you allow others to judge your vulnerability or misunderstand your pain. When you talk about your progress too openly, you allow jealousy, comparison, and silent negativity to attach themselves to your blessings. And when you talk about your relationships too publicly, you allow outside opinions to influence something that was only meant to be nurtured by the people inside it. A quiet life removes all of this chaos and returns your power to where it belongs, your own heart. People cannot weaken what they do not know about. They cannot attack what they cannot see. They cannot judge what remains outside their awareness. They cannot interfere with what is hidden in your spiritual inner space. The Buddha taught that mastery comes from inner strength, and inner strength is developed in silence, not in public discussions, not in explanations, and not in external validation. When you keep your life private, you begin to notice something profound. Decisions become easier. You stop hesitating because you are no longer imagining how others will react. You stop second-guessing yourself because no one else is involved in your thinking. You stop drowning in confusion because your mind is no longer cluttered with competing voices. You begin to hear your intuition clearly, not as a soft whisper buried under noise, but as a steady internal guide that knows exactly what aligns with your spirit. You also begin to notice emotional freedom. When your life is private, you are no longer chained to the pressure of perfection. You don't have to pretend to be strong when you are weak. You don't have to act like you are fine when you are hurting. You don't have to perform happiness when you are simply trying to heal. Privacy gives you the space to be authentic, human, imperfect, and real. It gives you space to breathe without the weight of outside expectations. Your relationships become stronger as well. When you stop publicly displaying your connections, the people in your life feel safer, more valued, and more respected. There is no need to perform affection for others. No need to prove loyalty. No need to justify the presence of someone in your life. A private relationship grows deeper because it grows away from the noise that destroys so many bonds: comparison, gossip, jealousy, and unnecessary opinions. Most importantly, a quiet life gives you spiritual authority over your own path. You begin making choices from a place of inner power. You stop chasing validation because your sense of worth comes from within. You stop trying to be understood because your confidence is rooted in your own clarity, not the world's acceptance. You stop looking for direction from outside yourself because your intuition becomes your guiding teacher. When you stop sharing everything, you finally meet the most powerful version of yourself, the version that does not depend on applause, approval, or attention to feel valuable. The version that moves in silence and lets results speak louder than explanations. The version that does not need to be seen to feel alive. The version that is not shaken by judgment because it is no longer exposed to unnecessary eyes. A quiet life is not small. It is sovereign. It is self-controlled. It is spiritually protected. It is aligned with the Buddhist ideal of detachment, not from life, but from the noise that disrupts your inner peace. And the moment you choose to stop sharing everything, your power returns home. You walk differently. You think differently. You feel differently. You become someone who does not break easily, because your strength is no longer scattered in the world. It is concentrated inside you, held together by silence, guarded by privacy, and amplified by the peace that comes when you no longer hand your life to others. This is the moment your transformation truly begins. 11. You become invisible to negativity when you live a life the world cannot see. There is a powerful shift that happens when you decide to disappear from the noise of the world, not physically, but spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. When you begin to value privacy, when you stop announcing your every move, when you stop exposing your plans, when you stop broadcasting your emotions, something sacred occurs. You become invisible to the negativity that once disturbed you. Buddhism teaches that suffering often arises from exposure. Exposure to attachment, exposure to comparison, exposure to judgment, and exposure to the world's constant demands. When your life is no longer lived on display, negativity has nothing to attach to, nothing to grip, nothing to follow. Most people suffer because their life is an open door. Anything can walk in. Anyone can interfere. Noise can enter easily. Opinions can slip through without permission. Negativity can flow straight into the heart because there are no spiritual boundaries protecting the inner world. But when you choose a private path, when you decide that your soul is not public property, when you close the doors that were once left open for anyone to walk through, you remove the entry points through which negativity used to find you. Invisibility is not about hiding yourself. It is about protecting your essence from pollution. When people don't know your plans, they cannot sabotage them. When people don't know your blessings, they cannot envy them. When people don't know your struggles, they cannot criticize them. When people don't know your pace, they cannot rush you. When people don't know your intentions, they cannot judge you. Your life becomes lighter because there is nothing left for the world to grab. Negativity needs information to grow. It needs visibility to touch you. It needs knowledge of your life to influence you. When you live privately, negativity loses its power. It has no access point, no doorway, no open wound, no exposed emotion to target. Just like a flame that dies without oxygen, negativity dies in the presence of silence. This is why truly peaceful people move quietly. They don't speak unnecessarily. They don't show everything. They live softly, with minimal exposure, because they understand that the more people know, the more energy you must carry. And the more you carry, the heavier your spirit becomes. Privacy is not withdrawal. Privacy is strength. It is the quiet decision to protect your mental and emotional environment from interference. When you live a private life, the world cannot attack what it cannot see. The world cannot disturb what it cannot reach. The world cannot judge what it does not know. You gain a spiritual invisibility, not in a physical sense, but in the sense that negativity cannot detect your movements, your intentions, your transitions, or your transformations. This invisibility is a blessing because it frees you from unnecessary emotional battles. Buddhism teaches that true freedom is found not in controlling the world, but in controlling your relationship with the world. When you choose silence, you choose separation from the noise that once dictated your emotions. When you choose privacy, you choose the purity of inner peace over the chaos of external validation. When you choose invisibility, you choose a deeper connection with yourself, a connection that the world cannot contaminate. Living privately also deepens your personal power. People cannot drain energy from someone who is no longer accessible. They cannot gossip about someone who no longer provides material. They cannot judge someone whose life they do not see. They cannot misinterpret someone who rarely speaks. Your life becomes your own again, untouched, undisturbed, unbothered by the emotional storms of others. It becomes something sacred, something only you are responsible for, something no one else can contaminate. And there is another profound truth. When you are invisible to negativity, you become more visible to yourself. You see your life more clearly because it is no longer clouded by the reactions of others. You understand your purpose more deeply because it is no longer overshadowed by outside noise. You hear your inner wisdom louder because there is finally space for it to speak. This is the hidden power of a private life. You reconnect with your soul. Negativity cannot follow a person who has stepped into spiritual silence. It cannot chase a mind that has found stillness. It cannot disturb a heart that no longer opens itself to unnecessary eyes. When you live privately, your peace becomes untouchable. Your energy becomes protected. Your mind becomes clear. Your path becomes sacred. Your life becomes yours again. And the greatest victory of all is this: the world loses power over you the moment it loses access to you. This is the liberation you feel when you choose privacy over exposure, silence over noise, and inner peace over public attention. You are not disappearing, you are transforming. You are not hiding, you are healing. You are not avoiding the world, you are removing the world from places it never belonged. A private life is not emptiness, it is empowerment, and it is the path to a peace no one can take away. Shara. The world respects you more when it knows less about you. One of the most misunderstood truths in life is this: the less people know about you, the more powerful you appear. This does not come from arrogance or from wanting to be mysterious for attention. It comes from a deeper spiritual principle. People can only judge, attack, question, doubt, or interfere with what they can see. When your life becomes private, you remove the ability of others to define you, limit you, or place you inside a box built from their own insecurities. Buddhism teaches that a person who lives close to their inner truth does not need to announce it. They radiate it. And the quieter your life becomes, the more strongly that inner truth shows in your presence. The world begins to respect you in silence because mystery creates dignity. When people cannot predict your next move, they cannot limit you. When they do not know your plans, they cannot sabotage you. When they cannot read your emotions, they cannot manipulate you. When they do not have access to your daily life, they cannot form opinions that affect your confidence. You become someone who moves with intention rather than explanation, with clarity rather than noise, and with strength rather than exposure. People lose respect for those who overshare, not out of cruelty, but because overexposure reduces value. When someone reveals everything, their plans, their wounds, their relationships, their achievements, their moods, they unknowingly make themselves too accessible. And what becomes too accessible often becomes taken for granted. When you give the world too many pieces of you, people stop appreciating them. They stop valuing your words. They stop respecting your boundaries. They begin to see you as predictable, ordinary, and emotionally scattered. Oversharing dilutes your spiritual presence. But when you keep your life private, you become someone whose silence commands attention, whose energy carries weight, and whose presence speaks without needing words. You become someone people observe quietly, because they do not know what drives you, what shapes you, or what direction you are heading in. Your actions become your language. Your discipline becomes your message. Your consistency becomes your reputation, and your silence becomes your strength. Privacy creates a spiritual aura around you, one that cannot be replicated by those who constantly seek external validation. A person who is rooted within themselves does not need to impress the world. They are satisfied with being understood by their soul, not by the crowd. And the irony is this: the more you stop trying to be seen, the more you are respected when you appear. The more you stop trying to be understood, the more people admire your clarity. The more you stop explaining yourself, the more people take your decisions seriously. A quiet life also eliminates opportunities for people to see your weaknesses, not because you are hiding them, but because your weaknesses are sacred spaces where healing happens. When others see your weaknesses, they project their own insecurities, advice, criticism, or pity onto you. This adds emotional weight to a place that is already tender. But when you heal privately, your weaknesses transform quietly into strength. When you emerge, people do not see the wounds you carried, they see the power you built. When you live privately, people also stop assuming they know you. Assumptions are one of the biggest sources of disrespect. When your life is loud, people think they understand everything about you, your choices, your relationships, your intentions, your personality. But when your life is quiet, people cannot form assumptions because there is nothing visible to base them on. They are forced to respect the boundaries of the unknown. The unknown makes them cautious in how they speak about you, how they approach you, and how they interpret you. There is also a psychological truth. People admire what they cannot easily access. Just like rare things are valued more because they are not available to everyone, your energy becomes more valuable when it is not constantly given away. Your presence becomes more appreciated because it is not always present. Your words become more meaningful because they are not spoken unnecessarily. Your life becomes more respected because it is not displayed for amusement or judgment. Living privately also makes you harder to disrespect. When your life is hidden, people cannot mock your failures because they do not know them. They cannot envy your wins because they do not see them. They cannot interfere with your progress because they are unaware of it. They cannot gossip about your relationships because they do not have information. They cannot judge your healing because they cannot see the process. You remove their power simply by removing their access. And here is the deepest spiritual truth. When you stop giving the world too much of you, you finally give yourself back to yourself. You take back your time. You take back your mental space. You take back your emotional energy. You take back your spiritual identity. You take back your confidence. You take back your destiny. The world will always speak. The world will always watch. The world will always judge, interpret, compare, and react. You cannot control that. But you can control how much of yourself you place in the world's hands. A private life does not guarantee the absence of suffering, but it guarantees a deeper presence of peace. And peace becomes the foundation of respect. In the end, the world respects those who respect themselves, and self-respect often begins with privacy. When you look back at your life, you will realize that most of the pain you carried did not come from your path, but from the people you allowed to walk it with you. You suffered because you opened your heart to those who could not protect it. You struggled because you shared your dreams with people who could not understand them. You felt lost because you let too many voices speak into your mind. and you felt drained because you gave away your peace, piece by piece, without noticing how valuable it truly was. Buddhism teaches that peace is not something you chase, it is something you uncover by removing what blocks it. Your peace was never gone. It was hidden beneath noise, opinions, expectations, jealousy, misunderstandings, and the emotional weight of living too publicly. The moment you begin to pull back, the moment you begin to live more quietly, the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you detach from unnecessary connections, your peace gently rises back to the surface. It returns not with force, but like water settling after a long disturbance, slowly, naturally, beautifully. A private life is not about isolation. It is about alignment. It is about returning to your center, protecting your energy, and creating boundaries that guard your emotional and spiritual well-being. When fewer people know your business, your mind becomes quieter. When fewer people have access to your heart, your emotions become lighter. When fewer people influence your decisions, your path becomes clearer. Peace does not enter your life from the outside. It grows from the silence you create within. You have learned now that not everyone deserves to hear your truth. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone deserves to know your plans, your pain, your blessings, or your growth. When you share less, you suffer less. When you protect your blessings, they grow stronger. When you guard your boundaries, you grow deeper. And when you choose silence over noise, you choose clarity over confusion. The most powerful version of you will always emerge in moments of quiet. It is in stillness that you understand who you truly are. It is in detachment that you understand what truly matters. It is in privacy that you discover how peaceful life can be when you stop performing for the world and start living for your soul. No one ever healed by explaining themselves endlessly. No one ever grew by exposing their steps too early. No one ever found peace through noise. Peace is born in silence. It is nurtured in privacy. It is protected by boundaries. And it is strengthened by choosing yourself, your peace, your clarity, your growth over the need to be understood or approved by others. So walk quietly, move wisely. Guard your inner world with compassion. Let your life unfold away from unnecessary eyes. Become someone whose peace cannot be shaken, because the world no longer has access to the parts of you that were once vulnerable. And remember this, you will never find peace until you stop giving your life to everyone. Your peace begins the moment you start giving your life back to yourself. Live privately, live intentionally, live calmly, and watch your peace return, stronger than ever.